Good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall. This meeting of the Sioux Falls City Council will begin in a few moments. The City Council meets on the first, second, and third Tuesday of each month at 7 o'clock p.m. and serves as the city's policymaking and legislative body. Each meeting is governed by Robert's Rules of Order unless those guidelines conflict with city ordinance or charter. City Council meetings offer an opportunity for citizens to speak directly to their elected representatives. Those in attendance are invited to address the Council during the public input segment at the beginning of the agenda. At that time, any issue that is not subject to formal action later in the agenda can be addressed. Testimony that concerns a resolution or an ordinance's second reading is only allowed when those specific agenda items are being addressed by the Council. When addressing the Council, citizens should speak directly into the microphones at the podium and state their names for the record after being recognized by the Chair. To accommodate and respect all viewpoints, citizen comments are limited by ordinance to no more than 5 minutes each. Comments should be respectful and focused on providing new information that will benefit the Council's deliberative process. The Chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers. City Council meetings are broadcast live on CityLink and online at www.siouxfalls.org. Information regarding the City Council, its committees, meetings, briefings, and members is available by visiting www.siouxfalls.org/council or by calling the Council office at 605-367-8085. Thank you for your interest in Sioux Falls City government.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. We're certainly pleased to have everybody here tonight. It is Tuesday, April 14th here in our great city, and we want to start by introducing you to your City Council.
Councilmember Erpenbach.
Here.
Jameson.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Kiley.
Here.
Rolfing.
Here. Staggers.
Present.
Anderson.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Thank you very much. In Sioux Falls, we start our council meetings with an invocation. And we're very, very blessed to have Senior Pastor Brett Best of the Emmanuel Baptist Church here tonight. The pastor will lead us in that invocation. What we'd ask you to do is to stand and then remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Senior Pastor Brett, welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I had a privilege this afternoon of speaking with one of the chaplains of our fire department who was on the scene in Brandon earlier this week. And so I'd like to begin this evening by having just a moment of silence, and then I'll lead us. Our Father, it is sometimes these tragic losses that remind us that we live in community. Relationships based on trust for our mutual benefit and encouragement. Help us to see that cooperation creates industry and prosperity, but let us not be so enamored with the ends that we overlook the means. Instead, let us forge a shared destiny that includes all our citizens, especially those least advantaged. May our hearts and minds be inspired to do better, to be stronger, more gracious, and more faithful. For all our days, and in all these ways, bless those who lead and those who follow, electorate and elected, with wisdom to see the right and courage to pursue it. I ask this in the name of Jesus. Let those who agree say, Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
Thank you so much for being here tonight. We certainly appreciate just a great attendance for our city council meeting. I actually have 3 proclamations that I'd love to read on behalf of the 170,000 people that call our city home. The first one is involving Congenital Diaphragmatic Hernia Action Day. And would you mind introducing your family here, please? Or do you want Brody to do it? Brody, would you mind introducing your family to the people of Sioux Falls, please?
My name?
Yes.
Is Brody.
And Brody, tell us your mom and your dad's name.
Brett.
Is your dad and your mom?
Donna.
And who is your sister?
Zoe.
Zoe. Thank you. Great job. Can you tell everybody your last name?
Stoltz.
Great job. Could give him a round of applause. We're ready. The proclamation reads, whereas 1 in every 2,500 pregnancies is diagnosed with a congenital diaphragmatic hernia, otherwise known as CDH. Whereas since 2000, it is estimated that over 500,000 babies have been born with CDH. However, only 50% of those babies survived. Whereas CDH is as common as spina bifida and cystic fibrosis. However, very few people know about it or are aware of it. Whereas 1,600 babies are born with CDH every year in the United States, with an average of 5 born in South Dakota each year. Whereas there are many people living in South Dakota who have been diagnosed with and have survived their CDH. Although many families in South Dakota have endured the horrible pain and grief associated with the loss of loved ones with CDH. Whereas those with CDH often endure multiple surgeries and possible medical complications beyond their diagnosis that include heart defects, pulmonary complications, gastric and intestinal problems, developmental delays, and may require respiratory and medicinal support for years. Whereas raising awareness of this congenital defect, and that's what we're doing right now, we are raising awareness of this congenital defect. It will help bring about acceptance and support for those suffering with it. It will help advocate for urgently needed medical research and advances. Now, Brody, I am Mike Huther. I am the proud mayor of this town called Sioux Falls, and I do hereby proclaim April 19th, 2015 as the day of Congenital Diaphragmatic Hernia Action Day in Sioux Falls. Thank you for being here. Thank you for helping us educate everybody about CDH, and we're very, very blessed that you're with us here tonight. Thank you. The next proclamation, National Volunteer Week. And I know we've got a number of folks here. Would you all want to come up? I mean, you're good stewards. We might as well get you up here. Thank you. And while they're coming up, Susie, I know there's a ton of people that volunteer in our town, and I know you wanted to represent or at least recognize some of those groups. Would you mind, first of all, introducing yourself, and then let's talk about those organizations.
I am Susie Reeks. I am the Volunteer Services Director at the Helpline Center. The Helpline Center is that volunteer center in Sioux Falls of the Sioux Empire. And we help connect people in the community with volunteers that are able to go out and help. And in the Sioux Empire area, we have over 200 nonprofits, and most of them need volunteers and depend on them every day. And this week is all about recognizing those volunteers. And with us today, we have a lot of different volunteer managers from those organizations. The organizations we have with us today are Avera Prince of Peace, LSS Center for New Americans, St. Francis House, the Compass Center, Furniture Mission, Sanford Health, Special Olympics, Make-A-Wish, South Dakota, Girl Scouts, and Volunteers of America, Dakotas. So thank them for all they do and all the volunteers we have in the Sioux Empire.
Susie, thank you. The proclamation reads, whereas every community member can affect positive change with any volunteer action, no matter how big or small. And in South Dakota, 219,290 people volunteer annually. Whereas volunteers can connect with local community service opportunities through hundreds of community service organizations, like volunteer centers. Whereas millions of volunteers working in their communities utilize their time and their talent daily to make a real difference in the lives of children, adults, and the elderly. Whereas during this week, all over the nation, service projects will be performed and volunteers recognized for their commitment to service. Whereas the giving of oneself and service to another empowers the giver and the recipient. Whereas experience teaches us that government itself cannot solve all of our nation's social problems. Whereas our country's volunteer force, which is over 62.6 million people, is indeed a great treasure. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim April 12th through April 18th as National Volunteer Week in Sioux Falls, and I urge all citizens to volunteer. I want to thank all of you for what you do. Susie, thanks for gathering everybody here. Can we just give them all a great round of applause? Thank you.
So as I look out, I also have Lifescape here and the Red Cross. So they are also one of the many people that are here with us today.
Susie, just quickly, how many organizations at the Helpline Center do you recognize as, or do you support in terms of volunteer efforts? I mean, it's a ton.
Yeah, there's over 200 different nonprofits that we work with, and on our website we have over 300 and some different volunteer opportunities that people can take advantage of every day.
Great, and if they want to volunteer, it's pretty simple. All they got to remember is 3 numbers.
211, you can call it 24/7.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Susie. Great job. There you go. Thank you. And the team from Wells Fargo, please come forward. Kurt, would you mind just introducing your team, please?
Well, we have Peter, Gene, Kathy, Robert, and myself, Kurt.
Very good.
And I'll let
you're
Robert,
from where?
Wells Fargo, here in town. And we're different parts of the organization, from business banking, retail, and managers. So let Robert talk a little bit about the organization.
Sure. I'll tell you what, why don't I read the proclamation, and I'm going to have you go into just a bit more detail, if that's okay. Thank you. Whereas thousands of brave American service members from South Dakota have demonstrated their courage and commitment to freedom by serving the armed forces of the United States of America around the globe. Whereas a great number of these soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, they've left families with children behind while serving. Whereas over 1,000 military children and youth in Minnehaha and Lincoln counties alone have at least one parent that is currently serving in the armed services. Whereas these children are a source of pride and honor to us in Sioux Falls and in South Dakota. And it is only fitting that we take time to celebrate their spirit and recognize their contributions, letting our men and women in uniform know that while they are taking care of us, we are taking care of their children. Whereas the recognition of April 15th as Purple Up for Military Kids Day will allow us to pay tribute to military children for their commitment, struggles, and unconditional support of our troops. Because when parents serve in the military, their children do as well. Whereas a special day to salute our military children will encourage support for Operation Military Kids, Guard, Reserve, and active duty military families, and other organizations established to provide local support to military children and families. Families that are in our very own backyards. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim April 15th as Purple Up for Military Kids Day in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I urge all citizens, businesses, and government leaders to observe this day by wearing purple in order to salute, honor, support, and thank military children in our community. Let's give them a round of applause real quick. Thank you. Just a little bit about the organization.
Okay. The organization, Wells Fargo, has been supporting it now in Sioux Falls for about 5 years. We've been able to stretch it up to Watertown, up to Aberdeen, clear out to the west coast, or west side, Rapid City. Sometimes it feels like the west coast over there, Mayor. The neat thing about this is the kids, like the proclamation says, is sometimes they get forgotten. They are left behind. There's a lot of strain on them. One of the neat things that they get is a backpack, and the most amazing thing inside that backpack is a personal letter that they get from another child that went through the exact same experience, and they're kind of buddied up. So it's just a really great experience for the kids, and they see a lot of value in it.
Well, thank you all for what you do, and Wells, thanks for being a good steward as well. Take care. Council, thank you so much. We'll now move to our consent agenda. Any motions or changes to tonight's consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Jameson's made a motion to approve our consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Karski. Any, yes, Councilor Staggers?
Yeah, I'd just like to pull one item. Fire with Sanford Health contract.
Councilor Staggers would like to take one item, and we'll discuss that later, involving fire and Sanford Health. If there's no other discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. We'll now move to our regular agenda. Council, any changes to our agenda tonight?
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second, Rolfing.
Kylie.
Councilor Erpenbach has made a motion to approve our agenda tonight, seconded by Councilor Rolfing. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
That is also passed 8-0. Thank you. We'll now move to our public input. It's a great opportunity for anybody to engage the council on any topic that you feel is important. All we'd ask, just come forward, state your name to the people of our town, and then if you could, just keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Anybody interested in doing that? Well, we're still very, very pleased to have you here. Thank you so much. We now want to move to Councilor Staggers had an item on the consent agenda. It involved fire/Sanford Health. Councilor Staggers, comments?
Yes. Jim is here today, and I just have 2 questions, Jim. The first one is, how much is our contract with Sanford? And then also, secondly, could you say something about the provision that we have for mental health evaluation?
Sure.
With the contract.
Jim Sedaris, Fire Chief. I can't tell you the cost yet. I was kind of tied up today, but it should be similar to what it was last year. It's a reoccurring part. And I can get that number to you from our financial analyst. The part with the mental health is a new component that we have added. Firefighting is inherently dangerous and very stressful. So now we have added a component for looking at every year when we do our screening. Part of that will be a mental health provider will talk to our people. We've been doing that now for the last year to help decrease some of that stress. We've gotten feedback from our firefighters that say that is has been very important to them and very useful. So we do screen for current employees. For coming onto the job, we also do a psychiatric evaluation for all our new hires. And everybody coming on, we have a failure rate of about maybe 30% who do not pass that screening. So we're looking at, once we hire someone, to make sure they're sound, and then also every year we look at how they're doing. And we also have a component within EAP for our firefighters. If they do have stressors going on in their lives, that we can refer them to EAP for more evaluation or more counseling.
So we're just beginning this on an ongoing basis then for every year for everybody in the fire department, huh?
That we've been doing this, but we added in the behavioral or mental health component last year.
Okay. And once again, do you think it'd be $600,000 a year, or?
I couldn't guess. I honestly don't know, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Any further discussion on this item?
Move to approve.
Second,
Erpenbach.
Kylie.
Councilor Box made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Kylie. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing? Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item number 21, please.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by revising 30.025, creation of agencies, authorities, committees, boards, commissions, and districts, and 30.026, rules for boards and commissions.
David?
Nothing new to report, Mayor. We've discussed that at an informational meeting and then also the first reading. We would just ask for an amendment to 30.025, Part F, as in Frank, where it reads, citizen appointees who miss more than 50% of the board meetings in any calendar year may be removed by the mayor for cause. We just ask that an amendment be made, changing that period to a comma, then it would add unless specifically provided by law, period. That's all we'd ask. Thank you.
Council, would anybody want to, well, you know what, before I do that, this is a second reading. Is there anybody in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Very good. Council?
Erickson moves amendment as stated.
First move to approve.
Erickson moves to approve.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Erickson has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Erickson?
Erickson makes a motion to amend as stated by Attorney Fifley.
Second.
Councilor Erickson has also made a motion to amend it as stated by Councilor Fifley. It was seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. And very good. Any discussion on this, on the amendment? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. We now have an amended main motion, Council. Any further discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson? Erickson?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 22.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, establishing the tax increment revenues to be collected and authorizing the payment of tax increment revenues to the developer in accordance with the development agreement for tax incremental district number 16, City of Sioux Falls.
Brent, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Brent O'Neill with the Community Development Department. Here to talk about a request we have from developers of an existing tax increment financing district that the council approved in the summer of 2012. It was tax increment district 16. Again, just to orient some of you, it was right off of Cliff Avenue where it intersects with Burlington Northern Railroad, fairly close to the John Morrell area and north of the Whittier neighborhood. This is just a zoomed in shot of that with the aerial. Again, the context of the neighborhood, an undeveloped site for several years. You can see the housing, different kinds of developments have developed up around that over several decades. Excuse me. When the council looked at this TIF district in 2012, the driving factor for our recommendation, and I believe the council's approval, were just challenging site conditions here. There's a lot of topography. It was a dumping site, so it's full of rubble and other construction materials. In order to do any project here, it would require extensive dirt work. There are bedrock issues. The property really is just underutilized and kind of underfit for the neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods. And then also there are criminal activities that do occur here as well. Getting kind of right to the reason we're here is because of changes to the project, and really the project's going on 3 years. It is stalled, and probably for good reason, just some challenges. New developers are looking at this site and changing the scope of the project. The project was originally proposed as about 85 single-family housing lots. Homes will be built in that scenario, but ultimately they'd be leased homes, so it'd be kind of a rental arrangement. That model just, as it worked out, wasn't going to work in this area. The new developers, led by Todd Meyer-Henry and Ryan Reentz, are proposing 3 apartment buildings on that site instead. Those 3 combined would have 80 residential units, and then there is a remnant piece that would allow for about 40 residential lots to be built and sold as this project's completed. The major factors in us coming forward here today are the changes in how the tax increment financing district could be used. Originally, we had about $2 million in projected development costs. Under this scenario, under this project, that number is about $4 million. We originally projected a gap and a shortfall in the project of $1.8 million roughly. As you see on the screen, the new gap in their new project is about $2.8 million. And I think I actually omitted that second sub-bullet up there. The scope of the project as a whole has increased significantly. The original investment, the total investment by the developer was going to be about $12 million. Now the apartments plus what we expect for private development in those residential lots would take this project north of $20 million. The project and some of these images maybe look familiar. It came to the council in the last couple months for some zoning and land use items. This is a shot looking at what the apartment portion of the project would look like. And then this piece, again, takes that site layout, shows you how the apartments will be placed on the site, and then does show you those roughly 40 lots that are connecting to the adjacent neighborhoods. Wanted to kind of give you a rundown of a bit how the financial picture works. Our proposal would be to allow a contract or an agreement with the developer that would allow $2.8 million of actual costs that the developer incurs to go back to him through reimbursable TIF costs, and also to include financing costs that are associated with that. Couple project details, again, how this is financially feasible. The current value of the land is $260,000. Relatively for a project this size, very low tax base, $6,000 in taxes are being paid. Completion of this project, our estimate is that the new tax value of the property, what can be assessed, is going to be $12.6 million. That allows for an increment in new taxes of $250,000 per year from these projects. That $250,000 over the life of the TIF would then go to paying off that $2.8 million obligation. A couple final points. One, because this TIF district was created in 2012 and we have a statutory limit of 20 years on TIF, there are 17 years roughly remaining. It will work in that time frame if it comes to fruition. It's possible that obligation can be even satisfied sooner than that. And then the last point I'll make, just kind of on a procedural note, there are actually 2 steps that the council would need to take to go forward with this. The one we're talking about tonight is actually signing off on the agreement that the city would enter into with the developer that really forms the relationship and the responsibilities of each party. The second thing is a tax increment district plan that spells out in much greater detail, how the project looks, how it works, what's going to happen, and so forth. And we've taken that through the Planning Commission, and we'll be bringing that next week along with second reading. So we'll have kind of more details on both of those, but it will be 2 steps next week in order to implement this. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Brent, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And folks, this is a first reading, so you don't have an opportunity to engage the council. Council, I'm going to leave it in your hands. Questions, comments? Councilor Urbanbach.
Thank you, Brent. This is good stuff. My question is about that procedural part you just talked about. If we're going to approve a site plan basically next week, is that, and this is coming as an ordinance, that's why it's a first and second reading. Yep. the site plan is a resolution then, so it's only one reading?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, that plan will be a resolution.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
Councilor Jameson?
Thank you. Brent, could you go back to the one of the first slides you talked about with the 4 million?
Is it this one?
There you go. Site preparation costs. Do you have a statement from the contractor that outlines a quote from a earth mover, or is it something you obtained on your own, or how do you verify that cost, and or is there a safeguard in place that if whatever those costs are, that it's adjusted automatically?
You bet. And the safeguard is really the best answer. What we included in here are, all the costs that would be eligible, and we take a bit of a, it's very calculated, but it also, wants to estimate on the high end of what those might be. And if it comes in under that, that's always just a plus for us. So we do have the safeguard in place, and we actually are a Tegra firm that I believe many of you are familiar with the event center and the pool. We've also been establishing a relationship with them to kind of be an independent verifier of some of those costs. So to answer the question about the safeguard, what we will do in the way this agreement is set up is that the ceiling on what can be reimbursed is going to be at $2.8 million. And then we've got a list of costs that are eligible that only those costs can be reimbursed. And then we will require the developer to submit their actual expenses for that, and we'll also verify them. And then if we need to adjust accordingly, we would. But that's how it'll be structured.
Thank you. Good.
Councilor Kiley.
Move to set a date of hearing and second reading for this item for Tuesday, April 21st at 7 p.m.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Kiley has made a motion to set a date of hearing or that second reading for April 21st, and it has been seconded by Councilor Karski. If no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson? Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 23.
A resolution of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement between the Wildland Fire Division of the South Dakota Department of Agriculture and the City of Sioux Falls for cooperative efforts in fire prevention and suppression efforts and non-fire assistance.
Chief Sedaris.
Jim Sedaris, Fire Chief. This is an agreement that we don't currently have, so if we have to have state resources come to Sioux Falls, just like we had with Timber Strike, or we have to send our resources across the state, there's no agreement for compensation or how we would fulfill that mission. This clears that up so that we have how we be paid or how would we pay an agency coming into Sioux Falls.
Chief, thank you. Anybody in the audience want to speak to this? Council?
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second, Kiley.
There's been a motion to approve this item. It has been seconded. Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, Jim, you mentioned that we would receive compensation possibly. Would that also be true if they would come here, we pay them too, or how does that work?
Correct. If we would go someplace, we would have to be compensated. The city would be compensated for backfilling our firefighters here, as well as the firefighters that would be on the line someplace. If we bring in people here, the agreement is how much we would have to pay for those resources. We brought in they're called the Black Hats. They're the crews that cut down trees. We brought them in for Timber Strike. We really didn't have that provision in place, so we worked out something, but this finalized that, clears it up, and it makes it better, more transparent of what we're doing across the state.
Council, any other discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Kiley?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Council, with your permission, Councilor Anderson Jr. Just whispered in my ear, and he was spot on. Senior pastor certainly acknowledged the tragedy that happened to one of our neighbors. And it was not only tragic, of course, that the homeowner passed on, but certainly it was doubly tragic because a firefighter passed away trying to save that person or help that family. Chief, you know it better than anybody in terms of just how difficult a job you have, and again, just wanted to acknowledge our neighbors, acknowledge their loss, acknowledge the grief and the pain, and certainly want to just give our prayers to them. Councilor Anderson Jr., thank you. That was very appropriate and certainly well-deserved. Also, just wanted to acknowledge some of the young people in our audience tonight. It's one of the largest group of University of Sioux Falls students I've ever seen at a city council or at a meeting. I don't know what's going on, but we're glad you're here. And so thank you. It's also a half-hour meeting versus an hour-and-a-half meeting, so you still get that credit that's coming to you. So I don't know who to thank for that. But you're all on TV right now, too, so wave, okay? Very good. Councilors, if there's no other items, would anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn. Karski.
Second, Anderson.
There's been a motion to adjourn this meeting. It has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Make it a great night, Sioux Falls.